Good morning. Pleasant morning to the listeners of DBS Radio. Welcome. This morning we are about to bring you a live press conference at the Ministry of Finance conference room. And as I speak, we are getting ready to begin this press conference. In attendance, we have various ministers of government. We also have the members of the press represented here this morning. And we are here to bring to you the press conference called by the Ministry of Finance at the Ministry of Finance conference room here today, the 16th day of January. It's Monday. It's the beginning of a new week, and we are here awaiting the start of this press conference. So at any time now, we will be going over to Dion Durant-Smith. She's the press secretary, and she will be delivering the welcome remarks for this press conference. My name is Kwana Fontaine Wilson, and I'll be your presenter this morning as we, DBS Radio, bring in this press conference called for this morning. We now go over to Dion at this time at the podium. Good morning. All right, so Dion doesn't seem like she is quite ready as yet, but presenting this morning at this press conference is the Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, Prime Minister of Dominica. Also, the Honorable Rayburn Blackmore will be delivering an address as well. He's the Minister for National Security and Legal Affairs. And afterwards, the media will be expected to ask questions, and answers will be provided by the presenters here this morning. We now go over to Dion Durant-Smith, Press Secretary, for the commencement of this press conference here at the Ministry of Finance conference room. As I said earlier, in attendance, we have various ministers of government. And where I'm sitting, I could see the Minister for Kalinago Affairs present. I'm also seeing as well the Minister for Sports. And we also have members of the Dominica Police Force present. We have the Cabinet Secretary present as well. We have members of the media. We have GIS, also Kyrie FM, and other press representatives at this conference. And as I speak, we haven't seen the Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, as yet. I'm very sure that's what, yes, we are waiting for. And as I speak, I just noticed he just passed the conference room, and I'm pretty sure he will be seated very soon. And again, making the entrance is other members of Cabinet. We also see the Minister for Tourism, Ms. Charles, seated, and as we get set for this press conference. I mean, it's a new year, and I'm pretty sure that there are quite a bit of important and burning issues that will be addressed as we await this press conference this morning. We want to say a special good morning to all those tuned into DBS Radio at this time. And we are happy. Okay, and making his grand entrance, the Prime Minister of Dominica, the Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit. So now we go over to the podium for the welcome from Dion Durant-Smith, Press Secretary.
Good morning, all, and thank you for being here. We welcome those of you tuned in, our listeners and viewers via various media. We are broadcasting live on DBS Radio, Kyrie FM, and Q95 FM Radio, and of course via our various social media platforms, as well as on Kyrie TV. Let me acknowledge the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, the Minister for National Security and Legal Affairs, Honorable Rayburn Blackmore, other government ministers, Secretary to the Cabinet, Ms. Karen Prevost, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs, Ms. Joanne Commodore, other permanent secretaries, Acting Commissioner of Police, Lincoln Corbett, and other senior members of the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force, members of the media, good morning all, and welcome to the first of what is expected to be regular interactions, press briefings with you, the members of the media, hosted by the Honorable Prime Minister and other government ministers. Today, we will first hear from the Honorable Prime Minister, who will brief you on a number of matters, and then from the Minister for National Security, who will speak on the e-passport. Following the Minister's presentation, we will take your questions for the Honorable Prime Minister and for Mr. Blackmore. Let's get started. Please welcome the Honorable Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit to address you.
Thank you, Press Secretary. Let me again take this opportunity to wish the press Happy New Year, and we look forward to our usual constructive engagement in 2023. I also wish to publicly, as I've done privately, to congratulate the Dean of the Press Corps, Mr. Curtis Matthew, on his wedding, which took place in December of 2022, and I wish him all the best. I also take the privilege to wish my very dear friend 89th birthday celebration. So it's a lady called Marlene in Penville, who is a matriarch of Penville, a matriarch of the Labour Party in Penville, and also to thank her for this most beautiful gift she gave me, the beautiful tie I'm wearing this morning. She gave it to me, and I mean, when an 89-year-old lady gives you a gift, I mean, you must be a special person. So I'm very grateful for this. I want to say to the press that we look forward to more engagement with you. I give you the assurance that at myself as Prime Minister, we will meet on a structured basis, maybe every 2 weeks. But certainly in between, if the press needs to clarify any matter, they can always reach out to the Press Secretary, who will be able to get me or any of the ministers. You will certainly be hearing more of the ministers and from the ministers on the stewardship of the ministries. I know that's a complaint we've had, that you don't hear from ministers often or at all. In the whole process of national reset, that's going to change. And so you will hear from ministers, and if they don't speak to you, then you complain to me directly, and I'll deal with them directly. But I want to make a few comments on some issues of national importance and matters that, based on what the public is saying, is of interest to them. The first issue is in respect to the petroleum products in Dominica. As you know, we experienced an unfortunate circumstance of having a shortage in December with a rush to the pumps. Part of this had to do with the sea swell, which interrupted the docking of the vessel in Dominica, as Petrocaribe had in fact made a purchase order for a significant amount of petroleum products, but the vessel couldn't dock and over an extended period of time, and that interrupted the schedule of the receipt of petroleum products. Now, as you recall, Dominica signed on to the Petrocaribe Agreement very early after its establishment by President of Venezuela, of blessed memory, Hugo Chavez, and part of this strategy was for energy security in the region, with Venezuela using its vast resources to help countries like Dominica ensure that we can have continued access and of supplies. When we entered in the agreement, the government took a deliberate decision to only import from Venezuela diesel and liquefied petroleum gas, what we call LPG, and leaving the import of gasoline exclusively to the other existing private entities. In an effort to assist fishermen, because fishermen from Saint-Sauveur, Scottsett-Soufrière, from Stowe and from Pont-Saint-Jean, we decided to construct gas stations, but to provide gasoline to fishermen directly. And we also built one in Ansdeme as well, and to move into other fishing communities. Because when you look at Sansove, you have to travel all the way to Castle Bruce, and Castle Bruce has none. You have to go to Marigot to get gasoline. The Sansove folks had to go to Castle Comfort. The Soufriere folks, Scottsdale, had to go to Castle Comfort to get petroleum products. And transporting petroleum products in a minibus with 15 people on board was on the safest route. And so we purchased, Petrocaribbean purchased the petroleum products from the local suppliers, and we sold it. We sold it to the fishermen, but on every gallon that was sold by the fisheries cooperative of that community, they kept 25 cents as an arrangement with them to help to build capacity and to meet other resources that they would need in the communities. Since the challenges with Venezuela under the sanctions imposed on Venezuela by certain countries, including the United States of America, there had been a cut in the supply of petroleum products directly from Venezuela. And so Petrocaribbean started importing petroleum products, including LPG and diesel, from West Indies Oil. Thank God we have seen a resumption of the supply of petroleum products from Venezuela under the Petrocaribbean Agreement. So we've started receiving diesel and also LPG, and we have started receiving also gasoline from Venezuela. Obviously, with the sanctions still largely in place, the issue of transportation is a challenge, because Venezuela itself does not own the small vessels that you need to make economic sense to transport. So they rely on private sector entities to transport small volumes to Dominica, to St. Vincent, etc. And so that was hampered and so on. And thanks to the extraordinary commitment of the President of Venezuela, whom I had the occasion to meet a couple of times last year, and who I had the occasion to write, to draw to his attention the challenges that we're having with petroleum products, they were able to have some kind of makeshift shipping arrangements using a barge from Venezuela to Dominica to transport the petroleum products, which speaks to the extraordinary relationship and commitment of the Venezuelan government to us. And of course, I send out publicly again our profound gratitude to President Maduro and the good people of Venezuela for their long-standing solidarity. Now, with this petroleum shortage challenge, the government has decided, and it's interesting, so in a crisis, you're able to think sometimes even in a more strategic manner, and this is what we did after the hurricane. Out of the hurricane, Maria, we have been able to define a new vision for our country, to build resilience. And so what this shortage of petrol or gasoline reminded us, or drew to our attention rather, that the country has never had at its own disposal and control, any national reserve. And on reflection, I believe even that missed us in the resilience agenda, because that's important. The hospital need to be able to have access to gasoline, and the police need to have access to this. We cannot tell the fire ambulance service that it cannot go because we have no gas. So we need to address this particular issue. So we've decided as a government to order a large quantity of petroleum products in addition to what Venezuela supplied us. So Venezuela supplied us over 6,000 barrels of gasoline. And I speak of gasoline because the issue was mainly with gasoline and not the other products. And so we decided from the Treasury of Dominica to purchase 10,000 barrels of gasoline from a regional supplier. That 10,000 barrels was landed yesterday in Dominica, and we now have control over it. And the intention there is from henceforth to have a reserve. And so we have mandated Petrocaribbean to at all times ensure that we have over 10,000 barrels of gasoline in Dominica at any given time. And so whenever we need to do a top-up, we have to do a top-up. So what we have done in interim, recognizing that Petrocaribbean doesn't have the storage capacity now, is that we've leased some tanks, some storage tanks from DCP Successors Limited. So we have leased this from them, and we have discharged the petroleum products into those tanks at DCP, and the balance have been discharged at the Petrocaribbean facility. We intend to do two additional actions, and we're now negotiating good prices from suppliers, comparing prices. We're going to increase the capacity of storage at Petrocaribbean by 20,000 barrels for gasoline, and looking at lands in Portsmouth to also build storage capacity in Portsmouth. In the event something were to happen in the south, the north has petroleum products stored in a safe and international standard situation, so that we never find ourselves in this situation. Now, there are some people who said that the reason why there's been a shortage because we did not give the increase to the importers. This is not the case. In September thereabout, we gave the importers an increase. We had agreed on an increase. We gave them a percentage of that increase, and we said over time we would have given you the balance of the increase, allowing for the price of gasoline to go down and to fit it in nicely so that there's no impact on the consumers of petroleum products. Just after we did that, the price shot up off the roof, and so it was difficult to have increased the price on the consumers at the time. So in November, we gave them the full increase that they requested. So I believe when you add what we gave in September and what we gave in November, it will be much more than what they had originally indicated to us they had requested. Now, others have raised the issue that there's a concern from the importers about the mechanism that we use to determine the price of the pump. When I met with the CEO of West Indies Oil and at my office in the Parliament, and I'll tell you, I left Parliament to meet with him, the CEO of West Indies Oil, who's based in Antigua. I said to him, if you have an issue with the price build-up mechanism, then advise me on what you believe is the best one suggested. They have not done so. I know they met with the Ministry of Trade recently, and they said they would submit something, so we await that particular the particular request. So this is where we are. I can assure the country that all things considered, there's something we have no control over, but the actions the government has taken have been progressive actions, and I believe actions which would certainly help in ending any possibility of supply. So we'll continue to buy from Venezuela, but because Venezuela has the irregular shipping concern, we'll also be purchasing from this regional entity, this new regional entity that has agreed to supply us petroleum products. And the mandate to Petrocaribbean is that the several millions that we spend in buying the 10,000 barrels, when you sell, you put in a special account so that you don't come back to us for more money. Money should make money. And so I really want to say that this is where we are. With that, the Ministry of Trade has been very proactive, the Minister, in meeting with the suppliers, in meeting with the retailers, with a view to hearing their concerns and to see where we can address whatever concerns they may have as part of the holistic approach to addressing the situation. As of today, there will be the Cabinet approved on Tuesday a new price structure. So as of today, January 16th, I believe it is taking effect today, January 16th. The gasoline prices will be $14.87 per gallon. We've seen a drop of $1.07 per gallon. The high sulfur diesel, the new price will be $15.42 per gallon. a drop of $1.30 per gallon. Kerosene will be, the new price as of today will be $13.84 per gallon, a drop of $101.20 per gallon. And the ultra low sulfur diesel, the new price is $16.32 per gallon, a drop of $1.65 per gallon. So there's an interesting drop in prices, and every cent counts. And LPG, there's also a corresponding drop between 20 cents and I believe and 65 cents from the 20-pound cylinder to the 100-pound cylinder, and so forth. So this is good news. The other point I would like to draw to the public's attention is with regards to the resettlement of Petite Soufrière and Good Hope. And just to give you a quick update, as you know, I am, as Prime Minister, personally spearheading the resettlement of the wonderful people in this part of the country. Last year, I appointed a committee of senior public officers to assist with the preparatory work for the resettlement relocation of the residents of Petite Soufrière and Good Hope. And part of their mandate was to identify possible sites or locations for resettlement. Now, to find several acres of land can be a challenge, considering, if all things considered. Luckily, we have been able to identify a potential site where there's about 27 acres of land in a place called Johns Hill in Castle Bruce. I personally visited, along the Minister for Housing and the parliamentary representative for Castle Bruce, visited this site along with the chief surveyor, Mr. Lestrade, and the chief physical planner, Ms. Dorival. And the advice coming from the chief physical planner and the chief surveyor is that this site appears to be a plausible site for the relocation. They are now conducting an environmental impact assessment because there are a number of variables one has to take into consideration before making a final determination on the lands. All of these 27 acres are privately owned, so we'll have to go through the process of acquisition based on the State Lands Act. But I visited the area, and based on the advice of the technical people, this appears to be a pretty good site, and we have enough land in the area to relocate the people. So far, the number of families in the immediate that we have to relocate are 58 families we have to build homes for. And of course, there are associated amenities and infrastructure one has to put in. So it's not just the homes, but you don't want to build homes and that's it. But there's some supporting services you'll have to provide, shops and this kind of thing, so that people's livelihoods can continue from Petite Soufrière and Good Hope in an uninterrupted manner. So we're pushing very hard on this. We can all appreciate the sheer cost of this, what it's going to cost, and so these are challenges which the government has to confront, but we have done so before. We're now building for the residents of Dubic some 44 new residences. As you know, some of them that were built after Erica were affected by Maria, and so we decided to build more resilient homes, concrete roofs, impact windows for the people of Dubic. So some 44 homes are being built with playing fields and shopping arena. We're also replacing the church that we had to take out. We're building a new fire service. We're upgrading the police station. And also we're building some 66 homes for the residents of the Granby constituency. So we're building over 100 homes there in center in Granby, those of us who know Granby, with all of the amenities. So you can do the maths in your head and you can figure the sheer cost of these 3-bedroom homes. All of the homes, I believe, most of them rather are 3-bedroom homes that we're building for the residents of Dubic and Granby. So I'm happy that we're making progress on the Petite Soufrière Good Hope side of things. We are also putting in place a local committee so that they were also present on the field visit. Several of them, the local government, the village council chairman and others were present, and the chairlady and so on, and many persons who are affected, because the whole idea is to engage the community every step of the way. So, we're not just coming in a surreptitious manner, like Zorro and so on, and showing up. No, we want people to be part of the process. And so that they can assist with the location, the sites, we can assist with the designs, they can assist with the community issues and concerns and that have you. And this is what we did, for example, in designing Bellevue Chopin. So we were able to build with specific families in mind. So I knew, for example, which daughter was taking care of which mother. So that when we build a home, daughter's upstairs, mother is downstairs. So daughter could cook for mother. So they use one kitchen rather than two, though they have two kitchens. So all of these detailed things that we paid attention to, that the same kind of detail we will pay attention to in designing the community that we will build for the residents of Petit Soufrière and Good Hope. There. Now, on the issue of education, this government has been known to engage itself in an education revolution. We've sent thousands of young people to study from non-traditional sources, and the government continues to spend millions of dollars. And I believe in the region, we have some of the most generous offers to students. We pay housing, we pay tuition in many instances to students, for students, and notwithstanding the impact of Erica, notwithstanding the impact of hurricanes, notwithstanding the impact of COVID, notwithstanding the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war, we continue to commit towards students. And students are to apply every year for a request, because we have to know whether you're in school, because there are people who dropped out. We cannot just assume that you're still in school and believe that there's going to be a rollover of the students, because we have to. These are taxpayers' money. If I'm giving you $50,000 to go to school, I need to make sure that you're in school and you're not lying in the United States and that your grades are good. Though I don't believe that we are sufficiently diligent in monitoring people's grades, because there are students who have less than 2.0 GPA and expect us to continue to study. I think in the whole issue of national reset, we have to stick to the mandatory 3.0 GPA in order for you to continue to get assistance and so forth. And the point that Dominicans must understand, that there is a dramatic difference in being an island scholar and receiving assistance from the government. An island scholar, under the law, we are mandated to provide and cover all of the fees associated with this. If you get a scholarship based on excellence, I will provide 5 scholarships in addition to the island scholar at the State College, then we cover all your fees at the level of UE. So if you go out of UE, then that's all we'll cover in terms of what UE is covering. We use UE, the University of West Indies, as a benchmark to determine how we cover your undergraduate study. So when we give you, if the cost for the year is $20,000 and you get 10 from the government, you can expect to get the other 10 from the government. And so you have to, as a family, have to ensure that you get the 10. But people give the impression that they're under full scholarship with the government. And one of the things I want to caution parents about, and I've had the occasion to meet with parents and meet with students and to share with them my own knowledge and my experiences with American system of education. I have been working on this since 1996, 1997. That before you leave Dominica, it's important that you understand and know where your money is going to come from to pay for school. You cannot rely on working 20 hours a week to pay for school. That's to buy food. That's to buy, if you're a young girl, that's to buy your monthly requirements of stuff. You can't rely on that to pay tuition. You see what I'm saying? And so you have to ensure. But there are a number of students who go to the United States, go to other universities, not knowing where the other 10,000 coming from. And so they rely exclusively on the 10,000 commitment from the government, but you have a difference of 10,000 that you have to find. You understand? And so, and there's nothing that says that if you got 20,000 last year for school year, you must get 20,000 the next school year. The government will give you based on the availability of funds and its commitment to other students. And what we try to do is as far as possible, is to give to many students as possible. The other thing I want to say to people, most respectful, man, we have to be careful the idea of promoting disrespect by young people to the system and to others, and the level of ingratitude people show, and we make it everything political. I could have said as the Prime Minister, no government gave me any money to go to school. I had to work. My mother had to send money from Guadeloupe, and back in the days, you needed about 10 francs to get $1. So you can understand how much francs my mother had to fetch to send me to school in those days. And I paid school on credit cards. I left school, couldn't get my certificate because owing the university about $900. So I had to come back to Dominica, take a loan from the Rosa Credit Union at the time, and send the money to the school to get my diploma. I could say, well, I went through my struggles, so others should go for the struggles. But for me, I have a different mindset than most people. You understand? And this is why I believe that it is absolutely important for the country to step back a bit and to look at the country's national priorities. And those who receive monies, there must be written agreements between those who receive monies from the Treasury in terms of what is required of you and what are the clear obligations of the government or the Ministry of Education to you. And so that we both know very transparently what is required of you, the recipient, the beneficiary, and what's required of you, the benefactor, the government. Because at the end of the day, the taxpayers' money. And so we have to be very careful in the country that we don't parade this level of disrespect and all kinds of things from our people and so forth. This is wrong, and it's something that we all have to condemn and so forth. And of course, we'll keep our commitment to all those we have promised this to, and we're doing that. And we're doing that, and we'll continue to do so. In respect to the international airport, I can say to the country that progress has been made. I know people will determine whether the international is going to be constructed when you see earth movement and you see steel protruding from the ground and you see concrete being poured and you can see people wait till they see a strip and people say, well, maybe it's scary going to do a race car, track for race cars and so on. So let us see when the terminal building is built, and when you build the terminal building, you're going to say, well, we'll see if a plane can land there, and when you say a plane can land there, well, I don't want American Airlines alone to land, I want British Airways to land before I believe it's true and so forth. So there are a lot of people who will have all sorts of issues and so forth. I mean, Thomas sat with Jesus and he saw so many miracles Jesus made. And he still denied, he couldn't believe that a man could die and he could resurrect. Though he saw when Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, though he saw Jesus making the lame walk and the blind see, though he was there when Jesus turned water into wine. You understand? But no, I won't believe that Jesus, you die and you resurrect after 2 days, or 2 days or 3 days? 2 days, right? 3 days. After 3 days, no. You know what I'm saying? So I understand people will have that reservation, especially when we've been hearing it for the last 60 years. You understand? But it's a commitment we have, and I am very confident that we will build this airport. The progress being made. The ship that's carrying the heavy equipment is on the waters, meaning that it has left China to come in. The contractors have been building the landing site in the Woodfordville area because of the sheer size of the equipment and the narrowness of our roads. The equipment, some of the roads and bridges won't be able to sustain the weight of those equipment, so you have to barge all of them to the Woodfordville site and get them off. We have identified the Pottersville Savannah as a landing site so that it will be temporary for a short time just to get them off the port and so that we can get them out to Woodfordville. The geotechnical studies near completion, and obviously it will be ongoing, but the critical ones are there. All of the studies for earth movement have been completed with some variations because of the wetness of the soil, the more humidity in the soil than we anticipated, and so forth. The final designs are nearing completion because you have to keep making changes. So it's never really final until you complete. You really complete the airport. So the number of important aspects. The lab is functioning and not only providing services to the airport, but even the government now is using the lab for other investigations across the country. So that they'll be very helpful with that. So we're very confident, and I believe that the equipment based on the schedule will be in Dominica in February of this year, God's willing. And so once they land, then you'll have the type of equipment that you need to really do the kind of earth movement that you need to move ahead with this. So we're very confident on this. We had to build some additional homes to satisfy the needs of some residents there. So that's been done, and some 26 or so families have been moved into the homes, and they're very happy with the quality of the homes that they have, and people are generally happy. We've compensated the bulk of the people. There are some people whom we cannot find either because they're overseas or, in some cases people are deceased. So we are not able to finalize some of the payments for them. But that will be done as we go along. But we're very grateful for the level of cooperation and collaboration from landowners and property owners in the area. And so tremendous work has been done. I want to commend my staff for the diligence, the permanent secretary and Dr. Colin McIntyre and Bernard Lloyd, and of course Mr. Samuel Johnson, the CEO of the International Airport Development Company, who've been extremely diligent in ensuring that all of the aspects where the government is concerned, or where the contractors are concerned, the developers are concerned, that they're doing what they should do to the quality of work. We continue to engage our regional international partners, ECCA, and of course others, ECA and ICAO. ECA and ICAO, we continue to engage them so that they can provide advice to us. We're building our own capacity in the company to ensure that the quality assurance issues are addressed. So we're making some progress in this. And I guess people would like to see real movement, and certainly very soon, God willing, you'll see real movement on this. I also want to make a short comment on the situation in Brazil. Brazil is a sister hemispheric country. It is part of a region, and we have a duty and obligation to them as well. So I want to take this opportunity to speak briefly on the recent developments in Brazil, where on January 8th, a mob unleashed mayhem, invading and ransacking Brazil's Congress, Supreme Court, and the presidential offices, intended to spur military leaders to topple the duly elected government of President Lula da Silva. Dominica stands in full solidarity with the government and people of Brazil. We are lockstep with the international community in our unequivocal condemnation of attempts by anti-democratic forces in that country to undermine the will of the people. The ongoing efforts to destabilize the government of Brazil shall not stand, and the full extent of the law must be used to bring the perpetrators to justice. The movement inspired by anti-democratic government, anti-democratic leaders, and fed by conspiracy theories remain a threat to democracy, and not just in Brazil, but throughout the hemisphere. We see what happened in Peru, we saw what happened in Bolivia, and we've seen attempts here in the Caribbean, even in one country as this. We are beginning to see a propagation of such tendencies in many of our nations, as I said, big and small, underlying the need for each of us to be vigilant in the defense and protection of our democracies, guided by fully established norms and the rule of law. It is totally unacceptable that some forces in many nations continue to peddle the notion that any election they lost is not proper, even though there is no evidence to support the claims. And so we, with no reservation, condemn the anti-democratic actions in the Republic of Brazil. I also wish to make a statement on the issue of violence in our country. We all know that Dominica has been and continues to be one of the most peaceful and secure nations in this hemisphere and indeed the world. It is a sacred function of government working in tandem with its people to keep it that way. Any act of violence, no matter how rare in the regional and global context, is an affront to us all. Therefore, as far as this administration is concerned, we will review measures and embark on new actions to ensure the total peace and safety in our country. Unfortunately, our island has seen some tragic domestic and public incidents in recent times, which has put focus on the peace and security of the nation. These incidents highlight the fragility of a democratic society, where members of society have to observe decency and respect in dealing with each other. Especially with this emerging period of Carnival, where our communities are coming together to enjoy this unique festival, there might be a few who may be inclined to use this period of revelry for acts of violence and to otherwise instill a level of fear in the society. Let me say to all, we shall have a zero tolerance for any decadent behavior in our country. In this context, the Dominica Police Force will show zero tolerance to acts of violence related to events surrounding Carnival as a signature event on island. In turn, any event or band which cannot maintain an atmosphere of peace and civility will be stopped, curtailed where there is, and stopped and curtailed where there is tangible threat to any citizen on our island. Organizers of all events are compelled to ensure security for events is in place and that patrons are secure. Anyone found with unlicensed firearms or any weaponry deemed unsafe or dangerous will have them confiscated and will be detained under the laws of the Commonwealth of Dominica where applicable. No exceptions will be made, Carnival or no Carnival. There will be increased patrols and random searches of anyone exhibiting suspicious behavior to further emphasize our zero tolerance approach. And I want to say to the country that when incidents happen, we all have an outcry. Police should do that, police should do this. But when the police is conducting its responsibility, effecting its responsibility, we're the very same ones who stand to criticize. So, the police is doing searches for guns and ammunitions. We're waiting in the road for 10 minutes. We get upset. Why should the police be searching at 8 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the afternoon? Why can't the police search at 3 o'clock in the morning? But who is on the road at 3 o'clock in the morning? So we have to be consistent with our attitudes and not wait for when an incident happens. We all go into a frenzy, and when the impact of it subsides, then we go back to our usual state. And so, on the matter of domestic violence, this requires a more fundamental approach, which is a priority for us as a society and a people. Legislation and enforcement are critical parts of this, but ultimately, it is in the community and in the family that the solution lies. We will seek to engage a number of stakeholders across the communities before unveiling additional avenues and safety measures for those who are most vulnerable. We all have to condemn all acts of violence, especially domestic violence. We all. And we, as a society, this is going to have to be a societal response. We can't only look to the police and the government to solve this. All of us must play our part. And so, my dear citizens, in regards to domestic violence, we also want to urge victims to reach out for help before it gets too late. You know, this thing, you can't leave the house because of what society will say. We have to move away from this cultural issue. Seek help. Seek help. Because we understand sometimes it takes a level of courage to do so. But this caring society of ours must be able to act on the behalf of every victim. Additionally, we have various agencies of state whose purpose is to aid intervention, action, and protection. In the coming period, we will mandate those agencies in developing greater awareness about the facilities and their services. In regards to the wide issue of general security, we also call on the wider community to increase its own vigilance and not to hesitate to report any suspicious behavior and activity to the national security forces. Indeed, effective crime prevention begins at the community level, since the police and members of other law enforcement agencies cannot be everywhere. Also, please allow me on this occasion to address the issue of safety on our roads. Road safety is an integral part of being able to live in a safe environment. In the last few months, however, we have seen far too many incidents, and too many of our drivers and bikers are using our roads without care and attention, and with little regard for their own safety and that of others. Unnecessary speeding and driving under the influence of substances have been identified as key components to the increases. In a few cases, there are also the situation where some vehicles are just not road worthy, and their very use is in violation of some of our traffic regulations. The police will increase its monitoring in that regard and will seek to clamp down on speeding. And in this carnival period, especially on people who will insist on drinking and driving. But as a people, we must appeal to each one of us who use our roads, especially our young men, to exercise more caution and to show more care and respect to everyone. We live in different times. Whilst it is better for us to be aware of incidents which would have in the past been hidden or swept away, I would really like to appeal to the public to refrain from glorifying incidents of violence by spreading videos and photographs in particular of victims of violence as a form of crass entertainment. This circulation and spreading of videos and photographs of victims is not helping anybody. It's not helping anybody. And so my hope is that that practice can also end. We are way better than this in Dominica. And it is time we band together and reinforce the spirit of community and togetherness, which has long been the standard, not only for events on island, but a hallmark of life in Dominica. And so I want to appeal to all in that regard. I want to thank you for the courtesy of listening to me. Thank you much.
Well, thanks to the Honorable Prime Minister for these updates. Please stand by. The Prime Minister will take your questions after we've heard from the Honorable Minister for National Security and Legal Affairs, Mr. Reuben Blackmore, who will update us on the e-passport. Please welcome Mr. Blackmore.
Thank you. Honorable Prime Minister, Cabinet colleagues, Secretary to the Cabinet, Permanent Secretary, the Ministry of National Security and Home Affairs, other permanent secretaries, Chief of Police Acting, Press Secretary, distinguished members of the media fraternity, Dominicans, well-wishers and friends and listening. Good morning all, good morning. Let me take this opportunity again to wish every one of you and those of you listening and viewing this press conference a happy and prosperous New Year. Consistent with what you just heard from our Prime Minister, the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs made a promise and commitment to the people of Dominica to give updates on the e-passport and the passport issuing. Just for purpose of a brief reminder and for reference, the e-passport is the new passport launched by your government in July of 2021, and each of the types of passports issued by the Commonwealth of Dominica will actually be replaced, including what we call our regular passports, official passports, diplomatic passport, and what is commonly called our seaman passport. This new passport, as we said before, contains more security features than the previous passport, the machine-readable passports, and therefore includes a chip that contains the biodata information of the applicant. For those of you who have already obtained this new e-passport, you will attest to the fact that it has more pages than the previous passport. The previous passport had 42 pages. The new one that we have now has 48 pages. And the new passport, you can also testify to the fact, those of us who have received and obtained those new passport, is more resilient to water. Please don't throw it in water. And therefore, it is more secure, and it contains biodata security features that we did not have in the old passport. As I've said in previous media releases and press conferences, but I want to reiterate and to assure the Dominican public and everyone seeking citizenship of this beautiful country that the e-passport was chosen to ensure the integrity of Dominica's primary travel document, and it was also chosen to maintain and to extend this security integrity that I just spoke about. I want to say further, as with any new system, you're going to have gripes, you're going to have inconveniences, etc. And I really want to take this opportunity to, on behalf of the government of this country, to express my gratitude to the Dominican public for their patience so far. With your permission, I also want to highly commend the head of immigration, Inspector Hunter, and his staff compliments for the extraordinary effort thus far and the support given to the minister, the permanent secretary, and also the coordinator of this program, Ms. Viola Powell. You may recall when the new e-passport was first launched, your government offered a phased-out period of 2 years. However, upon review, and due to the security concerns arising from the mission-readable passports, there was a need to ensure that Dominica remained compliant with international standards of its official travel document, namely a passport. A decision, therefore, was taken to shorten the transition period from the mission-readable passport to the e-passport from 2 years to August 2022. You may also recall that your government gave due consideration to some of the inconveniences that was caused and therefore extended that period to December of last year, that is to say 2022. I want to just reference Section 28 and Section 29 of the Immigration and Passport Act that provides a legal facility for anyone who is the Minister for Immigration, the authority to determine the form of the passport for the Commonwealth of Dominica, and to make rules, therefore, regarding the issuance of passports, which also includes, among other things, the authority to ensure the phasing out of passports and the relevant prime term. After much consideration and discussion, and based on the need to ensure that Dominica fully embraces the new passport, your government has decided that there is no utility in extending the passport's transition deadline any further. In that regard, the government of Dominica, through the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs, has taken several measures to ensure that Dominicans have all the information needed to enable a smooth transition from the old passport or the mission-readable passport to the new e-passport. This includes regular media interfaces by your minister, increase in staffing of the immigration department to enable quicker and more processing, additional equipment, and an extended shift system to enable vetting, printing, and other necessary works. At present, as we speak, we have 3 shift systems around the clock to enable printing. That is to say, from 8 o'clock in the morning to 4, from 4 to midnight, and from midnight to 8 o'clock the next morning. We are thinking of the possibility of maybe a few hours on Saturday to facilitate people who are living in the countryside. There are also other measures taken by your government to facilitate Dominicans in the rural communities, and as a consequence, we had a local registration drive which was undertaken from February to March of last year. We targeted several communities, including Portsmouth, Marigot, La Plaine, St. Joseph, Wesley, Granby, and Mao. I said Mao last. And over 900 passports were issued in that drive. We also launched a regional outreach program in April and May of last year to include St. Martin, both sides, French and Dutch, St. Thomas, St. Croix, and St. John, and a total of 597 passports were issued. The government, through the Ministry of National Security, We'll also undertake more regional outreach program, and we are targeting in due time, which will be announced. Antigua and Totola, I've been getting a number of messages saying you have more Dominicans living in Antigua than St. Martin. This, in my view, is commendable. And again, I want to commend the staff of the Immigration Department for the extraordinary work. This will continue in other countries, in Canada, and in other parts of the US where we do not have mission offices going forward. The intention is to facilitate as many Dominicans as possible to make it a much smoother transition from our motion readable passport. For information purposes, since the launch of the e-passport in July of 2021, as of the 14th of this month, 61,444 e-passports have been issued, printed and issued. And we have moved in the past when the system allowed for us to have printed an average of 1,000 books under the old system, the motion readable passport. But now we're averaging 5,000 books per month. And again, that is testament to the tremendous work that the staff of the Immigration Department is doing and the tremendous support that your government has given to this project and the ministry. I want to, in a particular way, to express my gratitude to the Cabinet, the Prime Minister in particular, for the tremendous support that we have given so far to this transition into a new passport. You realize also we have also improved on the spacing at the Immigration Department. Now, I want to also say that the fees structure has not been changed. And you know, some people make it their vocation to misunderstand the purpose of social media platforms and then use it as a vehicle to spread misinformation. That is not true at all. And the minister or the ministry would never even attempt to increase the fee structure without the approval of the Prime Minister and Cabinet. And we have no intention as a government that is concerned about these people in doing that at this time. But I have some other important announcements to make. I know that you want to hear. As I indicated earlier, there will be no extension of a transition period, as we do not see any utility in endlessly prolonging the extension period. It also makes it easier for fraud and people with mischief in their minds to attempt to duplicate or motion readable passport. But a government that is caring, and we take, of course, into consideration the fact that we had a long holiday break, Christmas, New Year, etc., or New Year season, and as a result, all staff members of the Immigration Department were not always present to actually give you the services that you need to pick up a passport and to therefore apply for a new passport. So we're actually having what we call a grace period up to the 31st of this month, January. And when this passport will be actually phased out. It means to say, therefore, as of 31st of this month, you'll not be allowed to leave Dominica with the old passport or the motion readable passport. In keeping with international travel standards, if you're coming to a country with a passport that has expired, you can enter your country. But you'll not be allowed to leave the country with the old passport. You are obligated, therefore, to apply for a new passport going forward. I want to take this time again to call on the public for its continued patience and tolerance as you have demonstrated in the past. And the Immigration Department will continue to look at the processes and to make requests as to how we can better improve on the processes. And that will be done for the express purpose of trying to shorten the period of time from application to actual receiving point of your passport shorter. So to date, if you apply for a passport, within 8 weeks, you'll be able to get a new passport. Again, if there's an emergency, the word emergency, and a number of English words, English has the most difficult vocabulary. That one word can mean so many different things. But the word emergency, to me, has one connotation. So, if you have a wedding, you would have planned your wedding a long time. That's not an emergency. If you have a death in your family, something like that, or a medical issue, that's an emergency. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so if you want to go on holidays for the summer, and suddenly you say that's an emergency, you would have known that. So I just want to say this because these are some of the challenges that the head of the immigration report to us, that some people come before them and say that they're emergencies. So thank you very much, and I want to give you the assurance that we'll continue to do what we have to do as a government to make it easier and smoother for you to actually obtain a new passport. And again, this demonstrates the commitment of our government to ensure that Dominica belongs to the global space of excellence, because the value of a passport is measured by your ability to use that passport to travel to various centers internationally with less hassle. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Blackmore. At this point, I invite you to pose your questions to the Honorable Prime Minister and also to Mr. Blackmore. I only ask that you state your name and the media house which you represent. I see Matthias from Q95 FM Radio. We're happy to have you with us, and we invite you to go first. Why not? Sure.
Good morning to everybody, Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Minister of Security. The question as it relates to gas, I have two questions, and the storage. I see, I don't know if it's purposely done, I see that you're avoiding the issue of storage as it relates to Rubis. Is negotiation still on the table with Rubis? The question. The second one is, as it relates to electoral reform, and the statement as it relates to the judge, the former judge. Can you give us an update on that, please? Electoral reform. Thank you.
With regards to the first question on Rubis, the Ministry of Trade has had 2 meetings in recent time with Rubis. That is following on the engagement with Rubis last year and other suppliers. The offer of a price increase was always the issue, and so that is no longer an issue. But with Rubis, there is a particular request, and just to be transparent with the country, because I know so many things. And I try to, if you recognize I did not make any reference to this, I'm only responding to the question that you asked. Regards to Rubis, they have made 2 additional requests to the country. One, that we pay them for 5 years of claimed losses. So they want the government to pay them 5 years of claimed losses. And secondly, they want a commitment of a compulsory 12% return on their sales. So we have the view that these two requests are out of the ballpark and in discussion, because I don't see how a treasury can pay out to any enterprise for losses, and if a country were to agree to that, there would have to be independent audits done on a wide range of variables considered, etc. And I don't think that in a free market economy that the issue of putting in legislation or otherwise compulsory 12% or any kind of mandatory return on your investment is something that I believe that any sensible government or citizenry would give consideration to. So this is where we are with it, and based on the information that we have and some calculations have been made, they're talking about the claims would be in excess of 20 million East Caribbean dollars. I can say that when Rubis came to Dominica, we provided Rubis all the concessions they required. We're prepared to engage them to see if they could continue their businesses in Dominica. We have increased the price, the profit margin for the importers of the petroleum products. We'll be hoping in the next few weeks to also give consideration in the affirmative to an increase in the price, in the profit margin for the gas stations. So that'll be done very soon once we receive the recommendations from the Ministry of Trade, and they're having this back and forth discussions with the service providers. And whatever other support that any one of those importers of petroleum products would like from us, who would like to do this. And also say to us in the country, the importation of the decision by the government to import and to have in reserve is largely from a national security standpoint. It is not to displace any existing operation. As I understand it, for example, West Indies Oil, they have a capacity issue. Some of the tanks need refurbishment, upgrades. And likewise, I understand NP has a tank that it has to also upgrade based on the information that we have. So there are some things that some of the importers of petroleum products would need to do. Because for the last year or more, we have been leasing to West Indies Oil at Petrocaribbean storage facilities. So it tells you to the extent to which we facilitate the importance, and we're prepared to do that. It is not, I don't want anybody to think that we have had an acrimonious relationship with the importers. I have a responsibility to the citizens of Dominica, and I also have to ensure that those who do business in Dominica can make a profit within reason. And so my responsibility as Prime Minister is different from everybody else in the country. I have to do the balancing, and you know, what I'm saying. But I also have to be responsible in ensuring that how we use taxpayers' money conforms with the existing laws of the country. So we continue discussions, but we are open. We continue to engage. Whatever facilitation within reason that any one of them require, then we are prepared to provide that support to them. But our importation is to ensure that in the event of a sea swell and a boat cannot come, we'll have products on island. Yes, I'm saying, in the event that the current importers of petroleum products do not have the financial capacity to import to the extent to which they should be importing, the government would have a reserve. Because just to say to you that Petrocaribbean has no gas stations except the three that it helps the fishermen with. And so Petrocaribbean is the only one that is supplying the Rubis gas stations in Dominica. NP is not doing it, and West Indies are not doing it, obviously, maybe because of their business model and the business arrangement. Because I understand that where you're making a little money is in the retail. So people who like to sell all of the gas they import through their branded gas stations as far as possible. That's a business decision. It's not a criticism. It's just bringing a fact forward. And so it is critical that Petrocaribbean continues to import, because it is the only one who is supplying the Rubis gas stations from the north to the south to the east to the west and so forth. The issue of electoral reform, we prefer to use the word electoral modernization, you know. So I would like to say electoral modernization. I will hold a consultation with the sole Commissioner of Justice, Sir Byron, on Monday, 23rd of January, to have a first look at the report that he has presented and the associated legislation. So I will have a meeting with him on Monday, 23rd. Also want to inform the country that Dr. Kenneth Darrow is already at work to carry out the national coordination of all aspects relating to electoral modernization. And our hope is that very soon we will start engaging the public on the various aspects of electoral modernization. My only hope and prayer is that that process can be efficient in terms of the country agreeing on what are the elements of the reform, and that we can go to Parliament as quickly as possible to enact the legislation and start the process of effecting the issuance of the national ID cards, and to go through the process of verification of voters on the electors list. And so I'm hoping that the dissonance that may exist could be eliminated very quickly, so that we have electoral modernization in Dominica, and this one thing can disappear very quickly in this new term. And let us look for the next election 5 years from now, for a new election with a new system and so forth. There will not be any election in the next 40 months or 24 months. So I don't want anybody to anticipate that because under the Constitution, the only person who can call election is the Prime Minister. But there will not be anyone in the next 24 months. So don't look to April 2025 when Skerrit say he's going at the time of election. No, there'll be election would be a little later than that. Yeah. Yes, Curtis.
Prime Minister, good morning to you.
Yeah.
You mentioned this morning that a regional NTC is supplying Dominica with petroleum products. Who are they? And my other question is about the economy. Projection for Dominica for this year is for economic growth. But Prime Minister, some people are saying when they look at the economy, generally, they don't feel the growth in this economy in Dominica. How do you respond, sir?
System I can get you, but it's a company that is based in Jamaica. They also supply some part of the region. Their product come from Houston, Texas, and we have entered into agreement with them to supply us. Effort to diversify where the country procures its petroleum products from. And so they have been very efficient in their responses, and the service that they are providing to us is greatly appreciated. And of course, as far as those in the business are concerned, the prices were not bad. So we've accepted this. But I can get you the precise name of the company if you want this. But it's a private sector entity out of Jamaica. I think it's Western is Oil Jamaica or something. But I can get to the correct term. I mean, the question is, I mean, who are the people who are saying that? Who are the people who are saying that? Sometimes people look at their own personal circumstance to determine what are the national indicators. The reality is, one of the challenges this country has to confront is the issue of household debt and an issue of overcommitment of one's income is a huge challenge in the world. And so you will hear people say, my salary is $200. But when you check, the salary is $4,000. They have committed the salaries to things that they have purchased or committed to. It may be a mortgage, it may be a motor car, it may be a small loan for vacation that you've taken. The person may have gotten married and took a loan. And so you find yourself overcommitted. So we look at our own circumstance. The issue of determining our growth comes from a number of sources. It comes from our own national statistics, and the Ministry of Finance and Planning will project what growth it's expected to have in the economy based on the investments that we're making, whether it's projects, whether it's exports, whether it's construction, whether it's in education, what have you. But you also have independent entities, the Caribbean Development Bank, the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, who look at our indices, who look at the variables and make certain predictions of what the growth of Dominica will be next year. And based on submitted statistical data, what the actual growth would have been last year. So you have those coming from international entities. Will you always want to see more? Of course, we'll always want to see more happening. But let us understand this. You know, we have to be fair in this country. I hear people talk, and I read a lot of social media posts. I read a lot of them because I need to know what people are saying. Not necessarily who is saying it, but what people are saying. People tend to forget that this country, just about 5 years ago, its economy was affected by 226% of a storm. When all of us in this country said Dominica was finished, and any attempt to rebuild Dominica would take no less than 20 years. There are people who left Dominica because they were of the view that there is no way we can recover. They left. Then, just when we were seeing some dramatic recoveries from the hurricane that happened in 2017, here comes 2020. 3 years after, less than 3 years after, a pandemic that caused us to shut down the country. Not only shut down the country from external trade and visitor arrival, but also from domestic transactions. And if you cannot get people into Dominica, whether it's by boat or by plane, then what's going to happen? The hotels will be empty. The taximen won't be able to make money. The restaurants will close. Yes, one or two of us may go into a hotel, but how many Dominicans can fill up Kempinski or fill up Rosalie Bay? Will close. And the pandemic and the effects of the pandemic are still with us. Our revenues dropped in the pandemic by 44% at some point. 43%, sorry, at some point. And then when we thought that we were getting out of the pandemic, here comes the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. That has not only affected the price of commodities, but also have been able to affect the availability of stuff. So, yes, you may have the money to buy things, but you can't get it. You can't get it. You know, and so you have those realities. So the stuff on the shelves are more expensive now than they were in 2019 or in 2020 or 2021 for a number of reasons. A lot of it has to do with imported inflation. And if somebody buys a piece of lumber out of the United States for $5 a foot, and so that is landed in Dominica, we don't expect the person to sell it to us at $3. So we import in these prices. We don't produced the lumber that we need for construction to the extent that we need it. So we have those challenges. So I think sometimes people look at some of their personal circumstance, they may look at the issue of the price on the shelves and say, well, no. So yes, we have our own internal predictions, but we also rely heavily on the independent arbiters to do that. But interesting, Curtis, that's some of the same people who say that they don't feel the growth. When these very same entities say that there will be a negative growth in the economy, they say yes. You understand? What I would like to see happen in Dominica, what we need to do more in Dominica, we have to be more productive as citizens of Dominica. We have to work harder. Many of us who are doing some kind of construction, it's difficult to get men to work because people are not as diligent as they should be. We party too much in Dominica. So there's a fete on the weekend, we don't show up for work Monday and Tuesday. And then we have foreign residents in our country who don't want to go back to their country because things nice in Dominica from the region. You know them, you met them, you've met a number of them who say they don't go back to their countries because they're working. There's work. And so I don't agree with those who say that there's no growth. Of course we want to see more things happen in Dominica. More things happen in Dominica. But one cannot get even in the government system, the cost of running the state is more expensive because the government is the largest consumer of goods and services. So if when people complain about the price of petroleum products, the lower the price of gas at the pump is, the better for the government. Because the higher the price goes, it's not benefiting the treasury because there's a fixed rate of tax on the price per gallon. So people believe that once the price is high, government getting the extra money. No. Whether it's low or high, the government has a fixed rate, excise tax, on the price per gallon. So this way, for us, the lower it is, the better, because there'll be more consumption. Be more consumption because it's lower. Guy figure he can pull his tank. You go to Pennville, see a friend there. You go to Soufriere, come back. Go Portsmouth and Lime and so forth. And so I would like to see the price go down as low as possible, so we can see more revenue coming from petroleum products. But there are challenges. There are real challenges. And with all of these challenges that the world has brought onto ourselves, we continue to provide for the citizens of Dominica. Continue to provide to ensure that the safety nets are there. We continue to support the private sector with their wage bill. In many instances, a lot of small businesses. We continue to provide grants, small business grants to small businesses. We continue to send our children to school. We continue to build homes and fix homes for residents. I mean, look at the challenge now we are faced with in the East that nobody predicted. But we have to now raise tens of millions of dollars. When really, strictly speaking, it is not the responsibility of the government to relocate anybody. This is a free country. The government doesn't own the state. The government only owns what it has a title for. So if you are in a precarious circumstance, if you are in an unsafe area, it is you, the family, who has to make a determination for your own personal safety and the family to move, But the government, because of its benevolence and compassion, is assisting to underwrite the cost of that. But all the government has to do is to declare the place unsafe, and that's it. Insofar as its obligation is concerned. Yes, so I would agree with everybody who said that we'd like to see more happen. This is why we're pushing so hard. This is why I work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Because I'm not satisfied. I would like to see more happen. And in a faster pace. We need to see that everybody can have a job. And all of the infrastructure that we need to deal. There's a bridge that we have to construct in example, in We have three bridges. We have Rosalie Bridge, that's going to cost us about $15 million. We have a bridge there in Sari Falls there, the river. That might cost about $8 million. We have the one in Bath Estate, that is about $12 million. We have the bridge in Hampstead, that is estimated to cost about $11 million. Do the maths. So when people talk about only mortar and steel, then if I wish I could build these bridges in wood. or as the colonel goes to go and get me some what's the stuff you use for this Lauma. And PD colonel goes $100 for the Lauma trip, and let's tie some Lauma across and build the bridges. It's a hell of a task to manage this country. That people who in the stands will tell me how to do it, but I'm in the kitchen. Anybody can tell me how to do it because you're looking at it from a narrow perspective. When you in the private sector has to fire somebody, you only consider the bottom line. I have to consider myself, but if this person is fired, what about his mother who he's taking care of? He has 3 children going to school. His wife is a housewife. And he told me that he took a little loan on the credit union to fix his house. How do I send him home? Even if he might be a lazy fella. But I have to look beyond him and look about the implications of his family and his circumstance. And what are the implications for his children? Will they stop going to school? They will stop going to school. Who is going to take care of his mother who has to use adult Pampers? So I have to bring in all kinds of variables into a decision making. So people look at it from their narrow perspective and say, Skerry should do this, Skerry should do that. But the only difference between me and you, I am the one who have the weight to carry. You understand? I'm the one who has the weight to carry. I'm the one who has the stress to bear. And the buck stops with me. I cannot say it's not me. It's the president. The president is not an executive president. Everybody can say it's not me, Skerry. You know, including my ministers. They say that sometimes, to you guys. You know? And every public officer says it's on the prime minister's desk. Oh, but if you want the prime minister, let's call the prime minister money, get him payment of the treasury. They haven't done any work in the ministry to get the payment for the person, but call Skerry. So you have those challenges there, and it's not easy. We have to do it. We don't complain, and maybe that's the problem. I don't complain enough. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I could tell people exactly how life is for me, and then people will start maybe appreciating a little more. But it's not easy. But we do it because of our commitment, our diligence, our love for nation, our love for country. Like I see things happen. But tell me, I'm very impatient. A very impatient person. Like I say, things happen now. But it's not tomorrow. The Bible cautions against that. You know, tomorrow has its own problems. So worry not about it. Did it 2 days. I'm just paraphrasing. You know. Yes, ma'am. Please.
Good morning to you, Mr. Prime Minister.
Morning to you.
Can you reveal the revenue from the Citizenship by Investment program in 2022 as compared to 2021? And my other question, what does the agenda for Parliament looks like in 2023 in terms of new laws for the youth?
Yeah, well, the first question, I'll have to get the precise data for you. So we can get the Finance Secretary to give this to you, as I don't have this precise figure to me. But on the broader question of the CBI, the CBI is a very important source of non-tax revenue that is helping on underwriting a significant portion of the country's economic and social development. And this is why we always keep saying to our citizens that while you may have questions about certain aspects of the CBI, which is fine, but we must guard against attempts by elements to destroy it and to undermine it for narrow gains. But in terms of the infrastructure, for example, we're building, I said, 100 homes in Granby with fire service, with a community center, with playing facilities, with vending facilities for the folks of Dubik and Granby. All of this has been underwritten by the CBI program. We're building an international airport, which will cost us over $1 billion. You know, there's no bank in the world which will give us this loan, not even a portion of it. And half of us don't pay tax in Dominica, but we complain too much tax in Dominica. So you can imagine if I were to say to go to Parliament to pass the tax just to pay for the international airport. How many of us in Dominica would be prepared to give part of our salary for this? I would say maybe nobody. You understand? You know, so the National Employment Program, which is costing us about $4 million a month, is fully and absolutely underwritten by the CBI program. You know, so the number of interventions that we are using, you know, to underwrite the CBI costs, and of course some of the private projects that are investment arm of the hotels are being built and creating jobs in the economy and the construction. And of course one can appreciate the permanent jobs will create and the impact on the economy that it will create. So the CBI continues to remain a very important part of our country's non-tax revenue. And I understand the words non-tax revenue because you generate revenues from taxes, from loans, and from grants. And the more you can get non-tax revenue, is the less there's a need to tax the population. And so for as long as it is with us, we need to continue to invest in sustainable projects, you know, so that in the event that it leaves us, we have a foundation that we can stand and continue to build our economy. And this is what we've been doing with the CBI program. And just to respond to your question, I said the specific data you asked for can be provided to you because we report that to Parliament. It's part of the revenues and expenditure submission to the Parliament in a very transparent way. Just to say to you that notwithstanding the global challenges where the CBI is concerned and all the little questions have been asked, some of which are misplaced and others are legitimate questions, the CBI continues to do well, and we thank God for that. And in a time when, especially after disaster, during the pandemic, you know, when zero revenue coming into the treasury, the CBI has been able to anchor the government's expenditure, and so we're very grateful for this. The agenda for 2023, I believe we go to Parliament in the first week of February. The first week of February we'll go to Parliament, and on that day there'll be a number of pieces of legislation, most of which are amendments to existing laws, bringing more relief to the population. There'll be amendment to the VAT legislation and other the road maintenance levy will be removed, will be repealed. There's a levy that we put in to raise funds to construct roads that has been removed. We had passed a piece of legislation temporarily to reduce on the transfer fees where land transactions are concerned. Based on the positive reaction of the public, that measure, we had done it 1 year and we extended by another year. And in last budget, we decided to make it permanent. So we're going to Parliament to make it a permanent feature, reducing on the cost of doing business in Dominica, ensuring that more families can have titles, because you can have all of your land in the world. If you don't have a title for it in Dominica, then it's of no value to you or anybody or any of your offsprings and so forth. So to ensure that more people can have access to the abilities to have titles. So this is going to be permanent. There'll be one of the days, maybe in March or thereabout, where we'll dedicate the Parliament session to enacting new legislation where the family is concerned. So there'll be a new Maintenance Act that deals with families' responsibility to each other. Because, you know, in this country we're moving away from, every time you look at emo news, all these people, somebody always talking about government should be doing. Nobody's asking people, where's your mother, where's your father? You know, do you have relatives? What's Kerry do for you now? Kerry do anything for you recently? You know, I mean, government comes supposed to come last, not first. You know, you see what I'm saying? And so we have to ensure that people take care of their family. So not only about the guys who are neglecting their responsibilities to their children, but also children neglecting their responsibilities to their parents. Their parents will also be part of the legislation. When we start taking care of his child, yes, we're going to deal with him in the law in a stronger way. But those of you who are not taking care of your parents, and you're getting money for your parents, you look at the allowance you're getting, and you're there with your ticket to go Sunrise and these things, and your mother has no adult pampers, and she's soiling herself. The legislation will be dealing with those things as well. So all of it's part of the reset for police. It's part of the reset. We greater responsibility on the part of individuals to each other in society. So there are a number of important pieces of legislation. Obviously, Ms. Langford, you'll have the electoral reform. I'm hoping that we can address the differences among ourselves in the country and arrive at a final draft of a legislation that we can take to Parliament and pass very quickly. And this is a matter that I would like to see dealt with efficiently. But the Parliament will be very active and efficient in its mandate and so forth. So you'll have a lot to carry on DBS News.
All right, we'll take 2 more questions.
Yes.
Okay, one and then
All right. Good afternoon, Prime Minister. My question, well, let me just start by saying it's very comforting to hear that the government have leased tanks from DCP. Can you provide us with some more information as it relates to the safety measures that will be taken to ensure that these tanks are fit for storage?
Yeah, it's a good question. We have done so. We have done so. And I believe that we are satisfied that the measures that we put in place are safe, because it is not only these tanks that are there, there are a number of other enterprises on site. And so the precautionary measures must be taken to ensure that in the event that there is a spill, in the event that there's a fire, that it can be contained within the vicinity of this of the tank. So a number of actions have been taken by Petro-Caribbean. And obviously, everybody knows Mr. Nassif. Mr. Nassif is a very diligent person, so he would also ensure that all of the actions are taken to ensure the safety of the rest of the property at DCP. Now, one has to appreciate that these tanks were used for the storage of petroleum products in the past anyway, and there were existing safety measures already. We just had to increase it because you now have gasoline there, which is a more flammable product as compared to heavy diesel oil or something like this. So additional actions have been taken, and some of them are ongoing as well, ongoing to secure this, to secure the facility in the event of any unnecessary eventuality. Sure, but all actions have been taken. Yes, ma'am, please.
My name is Trisha from the Chronicle. I have several questions, but for time, okay. So women are concerned about what policies are being taken for women's security, and they would like to see an increase in the child maintenance fees. So what is your response to that?
Yeah.
I have also another question.
No, go ahead, sure.
Okay.
Please.
Pardon?
Go ahead, please.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, so your response on education. Do you have any plans to prioritize students attending our prized University of the West Indies as opposed to international universities which offer the same programs as UWI and are more expensive? And why is Dominica contributing to UWI and UWooding Law School in Trinidad? And do you have any plans to reduce food import duties? And what is the progress on plastic ban in Dominica? Sorry.
On plastic ban?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Regards to additional measures which we can take to protect women and also men too in the society from I suspect you're talking about domestic violence. Domestic violence. Obviously, the legislations are there. The legislation is there, and to protect people. The issue you have is the issue of reporting, and what happens after the reporting. I believe also because of the stigmatization in the society, there are many people who do not want to come forward, whether it's for religious reasons or cultural reasons or other reasons, to report this. And also you may have situations where women are economically dependent on their partner, or men, well, gender, it goes both ways really, are dependent from an economic standpoint. So I think we have to have more education and information sharing in the public that could help strengthen the resolve of individuals who find themselves in that circumstance to take the decision and to stand up for themselves. But it's also important for us as a society, because we all live in a society. There's some of you whose homes that people can stay in their home and touch you. It's so close that you hear things, you see things. What do we do as observers? Do we just say that's the people's business, or do we try to intervene and to help? I believe that the state agencies need to share more of the services and the support that are available for persons who find themselves in this circumstance. The church must step up. The church must not come and blame somebody else. The church must come and play its part and contribute to the process of eliminating these things in the society. And finally, I think we have to move away from this issue of holding government responsible for this. You understand what I'm saying? I don't think it is fair to hold, unless this is one of the things that we have to look at the society. If everything that goes wrong in the society we blame and we hold a prime minister responsible, at what point do we expect people to take responsibility for their actions? If we have a scapegoat, then who's going to take responsibility for their actions? I mean, we all adults, we do what we have to do. We get up in the morning, we decide what we do for our day. We make choices. If I have made monies available in the treasury to pay for school teachers to be at school, and these teachers don't show up, and if they show up, they don't correct the children's exams, and they lost the children's grades and the people's papers, how do I get blamed for it? If a doctor is being paid to be on call and he hasn't come in and see the patient, why do you blame me for this? Mention the doctor's name, call the doctor's name. If we're paying people $1,000 to do brush cutting, and the person cuts the grass and leaves it on the side of the road and makes a mess, what do you think? What scary do? It can't be right. I mean, why don't we call the person out? And the whole spirit of national reset, it has to be a situation where the discussions we have move away from political considerations. We cannot talk about go and interview somebody, and the person makes all kinds of nefarious comments, all kinds of defamatory comments about the government or the prime minister. And at no time we ask the person, but what is your responsibility? Where's your family? Do you have family? Are they dead? Are they alive? Why are you alone? So somebody's house is in a bad condition, but the person may have family who can afford to fix it. We're not pointing out that fact. You say, how come it's scary to build a house for your lady yet? But do you have money in the bank? Do you have property that you could sell and build yourself a house and enjoy the rest of your days on earth? There are people who have money in the bank, who live in the money in the bank, hoping to live for children who don't care about them, children who are overseas, and they appear to be living in poverty. We have to speak about those things. It shouldn't be only me to be talking about these things. There seems to be a disquiet about those things. For example, with regards to the gas shortage, people blame me, which, okay, it's fine, blame me. But nobody has gone to the importers of petroleum products and asked them a question. How come you as a businessman cause yourself to short? And if there is a gap in supply, why haven't you increased your importation of petroleum products to corner the market? Do you have financial problems? Do you have management problems? Do you have storage capacity issues? What questions do you have? But the simplistic thing to do in Dominica these days is to blame Roosevelt's carrot. That's the easiest thing to do. When I leave that, what's going to happen now? Because, I mean, I just go to overseas for a few days there, people start missing me. Same people who say scared boys going to miss scared boys. Why is he scared yet, boy? You're scared yet, but where's scared being a boy? You know, and Matt, I didn't know, Matt is missing me a lot, you know. I mean, every single day, man. Matt's looking for sightings of scared, man. Somebody please. Matt is saying in this program, somebody please tell me where you've seen scared, man. I mean, to me, when scared not Dominica, I think that as so to me. I pass to you, Matt, for your questions.
Sir, 2 questions. We all agree, all of us in the room agree that money is scarce. The economy can be tight. Why do we have such a large cabinet? Is a large cabinet like that necessary? Second question, as it relates to VAT, in other countries we see a decrease in VAT. Will we see any of that in Dominica in the near future?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my friend asked a question, a couple of questions. I'll come back to you, my daddy. A couple of questions there. The issue of VAT. VAT is the mainstay of the revenue of the country. That's what you use to determine economic activity in the country, and because of the way that the legislation is constructed, it is constructed in a way to protect the revenue base of the country. Currently, the VAT is at 15%. At a particular threshold, if you were to reduce it below that, based on what experts are saying to us, it will make no sense to you. And so, and VAT is the most fair tax that you can have because it's based on consumption. So you pay VAT based on your consumption, how much you consume. So if you consume less than me, you'll automatically pay less VAT than me. If I consume less than Grant, which I suspect I am, no, Grant will pay more VAT than me. You understand what I'm saying? So it is, I believe that the way to go insofar as tax is concerned is to reduce on income tax. I believe in people getting all of their labor's worth and let them use it the way that they ought to use it. But obviously our efforts to addressing this has been hampered by the hurricanes, by the pandemic, and of course, so it's about finding the right time. Because you don't want to take a decision as a government and then it doesn't work. Because you have no control over how much revenue you're going to get. You do a projection. You may go beyond it and you may fall short of it. Or you may get the same thing as you projected. So I would advise that we go the route really of addressing the income tax and giving people more money in their hands, what they work for, rather than reducing the VAT and so forth. And the issue of food import duties. I would like for us to, and the press secretary get from the Ministry of Trade and the Ministry of Finance and so on, the list of items that are no import duties and no VAT. And you'll be shocked to know the extent to which there are goods on the shelves in Dominica where the government gets no revenue for VAT from it in terms of when it's imported or import duties. I am not in favor of reducing import duties because the reality is the people who you would like to benefit from it never do. So I believe if we are to give any concessions on import duties, best you go the rebate way. You pay it and you can show me you spend it and then we refund you. So even with regards to a lot of people talk about building materials, let's remove the import duties on building materials. If you do that, there's no homeowner who's going to get it except if you import it yourself. You're not going to get it. I mean, and I'm not chastising any import. I don't want anybody to interpret what I'm saying as this. I'm based on our own experiences. You know, there's no VAT on adult Pampers or Pampers for babies, no import duties on it. But the price never changed. So it would have been better for me to identify how many senior citizens use adult Pampers in Dominica, do an average of how much they spend on adult Pampers, and give them a voucher, give them a check. You understand? So I'm trying to help Granny reduce the cost of Pampers to her by removing the import duties and the VAT on it, but Granny did not get the benefit because the price didn't move. So these are the kind of things that we're looking at. The issue of plastic ban is something that we're going to bring back on the agenda. As you know, we have done some work on it, and there are some additional items that we need to give consideration to. Obviously, there has to be a process on this. It requires the collaboration of all stakeholders, consumers, suppliers of goods and services. All of us must play our part in making it happen. But it's a discussion we're going to have, especially where the protection of the environment is concerned, and the marine space. All of these things, there are too many plastics out there in the rivers, in the ravines, and in the oceans, affecting the coral reefs or affecting the ecosystems in the rivers and the marine space. And so it's something that we're going to be looking at, in addition to other measures that we need to take where the preservation and conservation of the environment is concerned. I think I would have answered all of your questions. Yeah. And the University of West Indies, I have said so many times, it is the government's preferred choice for students of Dominica to go to the University of West Indies, whether it's in Jamaica, whether it's in Barbados, whether it's in Trinidad, or now in Antigua and Barbuda. You understand? But sometimes we allow students to make the choices to go to various universities. The other thing, too, I believe that the University of West Indies need to do is that it needs to have more outreach programs. And I remember way back as Minister of Education, when we were creating the State College, I had suggested to the University of West Indies that it may want to enter into a special arrangement with community colleges in the OECS, where it signs agreements with them. You develop the course module, and we buy it from you, the franchise. It become a franchise, we buy it from you. So that's what we would provide the students at the State College, so that instead of spending 3 years in Barbados, you would spend 2, because you would have already done all of the prerequisites, all the electives in your country, whether it's St. Vincent or Dominica or St. Lucia, and then it's easy to transition through the University of the West Indies. It is not true that we don't give contributions to you. Wouldn't we do? We have taken a decision not to give a mandatory there's a fee that UWI talks about. It slips me. That normally we used to provide before, but we're now providing based on the students who we send, and not just a carte blanche approach to the payments and so forth. But maybe every student who goes to you, we give some kind of contribution to the student on that. But my personal preference and that of the government will be for students to go to the University of West Indies to study, rather than spending this millions of dollars in the United States economy. We do help the U.S. economy quite a bit. The ambassador of the United States is coming to see me this week, so I'll remind her of that as well. You know, I know she's watching and listening in Barbados. So. I think my friend has one more question. Yeah, sure. You guys come ready for me today, boy. I can tell you.
Yes, we did.
Oh, sorry, Mark. Oh, well, you know, then we could take the parliament. Why not reduce the parliament from 21 to 5? You see, I don't think people understand the demands on ministers. I am the Prime Minister of the country. I'm also a minister, but also a member of Parliament. And I don't think people understand the extent of our work. These are not 8 to 4 job. Everybody can go to home at 8 to 4, not a minister. The minister has to be available 24 hours, 7 days a week. And I don't think that people understand the stress. You see these guys putting on weight. It's not because they're eating a lot, you know. because of stress and not eating on time. Stress and not eating on time. That's what the people who are medical officers out there can tell me. If you have stress, you'll put on weight. If you don't eat on time and you don't engage your metabolism, then you're gonna get weight and you're gonna get sick. If you don't watch it, that's why I encourage them to take a day off and to exercise. You understand? So it's a very stressful job, and government's functions and responsibilities have changed dramatically when Mr. was the Prime Minister of Dominica. Dramatically, running a country when Mr. was there now is two different worlds. And we don't only have domestic responsibilities, we have to engage ourselves on regional and international matters, because these things impact our survival way more now than they did back in the Cold War period. And so my salary as Prime Minister of the country is about $8,800. I wish it was 12. I wish it was 12 or even 20. But if you go to the government agencies that I am responsible for, all of the managers, they salary 3 times mine. They get housing allowance, they get car, they get a chauffeur. Ministers don't have, ministers buy their own vehicles. And if they have to lend a vehicle from the government for 2 days, the PSS on their back every day, but minister, you have to bring the vehicle back and so on. You know what I'm saying? So it's a very stressful job, and when you're in the kitchen, that's where you feel the heat. And the reality is, a lot of the people who left their jobs, Roland Roy is there, my friend there, my former student is there, as a minister now, he is just a permanent secretary. It's just a few, about $200 or $300 more he's getting for 500 times more stress. You see what I'm saying? It's sacrifice. The gentleman from the bank, Mr. Pinard, my member of parliament for Collio, his salary was higher at the bank. But he's come forward. I think people should be making a case for me. Who's going to be appointed my shop steward so they can make a case for me as a union rep to give me a bigger salary? I think I need a bigger salary. So people don't get this big money and all this big money you're getting and so on, and boy, the salary the minister's getting. No, it's a hell of a job. That's why many people don't want it. Well, a lot of people don't mind being prime minister if they don't have to do the work or they don't have to run elections. But when you're there doing it, the buck stops with you. I have nobody else to complain to, but you know, and I can take everything to Jesus Christ in prayer. He says, only those I cannot deal with. You understand? So, and I believe too, in a very transparent way, we're going through the process now of the reclassification of the public service. And I believe we need to reclassify the parliament. We need to reclassify the cabinet. Because based on the report that's coming, it may very well be a situation where the permanent secretaries may get a higher salary than me as prime minister based on reclassification. But they have to answer to $2. That they have to buy gas, they have to maintain their vehicles. You understand what I'm saying? So, if you're the Minister for Education or the Minister for National Security, you have all these police stations you have to go to, and the Minister for Sports, and you have to go to all these activities all over the country at your own expense. But most people have company vehicles. But it's a very stressful job. Very stressful job. That many people shy away from. Boy, me boy, politics boy, no. So I believe that we have to address, and I'm happy that, you see, Martin's a good fellow sometimes, you know. You see, Martin always telling us, but this salary you're talking about, really, you have to deal with that stuff. But the issue of the cabinet, man, is, I mean, the times have changed. So for people to say, well, Ms. Charles had 9. I mean, that's a completely different world now. Completely different world now. Completely different world now. This world has changed dramatically. I mean, even with regards dealing with, for example, the OECD and the CFATF and the FATF, you almost now have to have a ministry to deal with these people, you know. You understand? It's an ongoing ongoing engagement every single day. You have to be there, and you have to have now full-time staff to deal with these things specifically to respond to them in a timely fashion, so as to avoid you being grey-listed or negatively listed and affect your ability to conduct financial arrangements across the world. Understand? I mean, that preoccupies a lot of the government's time on a daily basis. So the size of the cabinet and so on, you know, it would be foolhardy for anybody to believe that it is not justified. It's not justified. And even staff, they all have to drive themselves wherever they go. I don't have much staff myself as Prime Minister. I still write a lot of my documents. And this is why I don't read many speeches, because I prefer to come speak, because the time it takes me to write a speech and so on, I say, I'm not stuck. The Lord has blessed me with the power of speech, so I'm using it. But you do not have the resources. I have to read every document. Every correspondence that the public sends to me, you know, I have to read it myself. Yeah, every correspondence I get from the OAS or for the Commonwealth or from the UN or something, I have to read it myself. I don't have a research assistant where I can send and do this and do that. I don't have that. You understand? So it is, and when you compare to the support services which ministers in other countries have, we have nothing like that in Dominica. Zero. Every country in the Caribbean, I believe that the ministers either have a driver and security and personal assistant to carry the errands, to go and pick up the children at school, to take the children to the playing field. Because all of these things, if you're serious about and your commitment to citizens, as in my case, some of you don't get to do a lot of these things for your children. A lot of these things for your children. While I should be at my children's PTA meeting, I have to find myself in another school addressing an issue. And likewise, my colleagues. You miss a lot of personal family responsibilities because of your commitment to the public. When rain is falling, that's when most of you sleep in more soundly. But a nice rainfall up there on the galvanized roof there, that's when you call about to be up, because I am concerned about the damage to the rest of the country. I have to keep asking my contacts in the rest of the communities, what's happening there? What's happening in the east? What's happening in the north? What's happening in Canada territory? What's happening in the south? I have to be up. Worried that they're going to be damaged. An additional cost to the country. These are the things. Sometimes I can't even get to go to church because I have to deal with an issue. I would love to go to church and to be able to preach and to pray, because sometimes the priests and the pastors don't speak the word and don't in the way that they should. And so I like to assist in that regard. But some of you can't go. I have to now administer, I have to go what the Bible says. We are 2 or 3 gathered together. So myself, my wife, my 2 children gather together. And we pray. You understand? And I have to anoint my 2 children myself, because I'm the head of the household. The Bible speaks about that. So it's not, we have to try to move away from these things. A Prime Minister doing and not doing and so on. I think we should more advocate to make life better for the Prime Minister and give the Prime Minister more resources to carry this function. He should be stress-free. He shouldn't be worrying about where this is concerned. He doesn't have water, the water pressure low at his house, so he has to go and send the bike gas in his generator if lights go, and he has to do the old landscaping and so forth and all these things. All right. Could you have a final one? Yes. Because you got married in December, I love you, the final one. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I hear Matt Peltier will be sometime soon.
Yeah.
Prime Minister, does COVID-19 or any strain of the virus pose any threat to Dominica right now?
Well, as far as the medical practitioners are saying, I mean, COVID is still around. We don't do the tests as we used to, but people who want to get tested, there's still the service to get tested. So some people have been tested and have tested positive for COVID. I mean, you have the flu around, it's really bad. It has all of the symptoms of COVID. And so we just have to go about our business in a responsible manner, take a precautionary measure. Wearing a mask is not taboo. You can still wear a mask if you have the flu and you have to come to work, or you have to be around family so that you minimize the transmission of the flu to each other. I think we have to go back to the days of sanitizing our hands more often as we did. We've all dropped and put away the sanitizers and washing of hands as frequently as we did. So they of course, you've seen the surge in China, you've seen in the United States and Europe, the significant numbers there, you know, and we empathize and sympathize with the countries affected by COVID. All of them were very helpful to us in our time of need. It's a huge challenge. China has a significant number of deaths there. So COVID is still around, and so we still need to go about the with precaution. If you have, I'm not aware of a new strain. I know WHO has indicated that, and of course CAF has indicated that there's a strain around of it, but we continue to test. I'm saying that people don't test as they used to before. Already a handful of people are testing, but we do have the services at the various health centers and the hospitals. The reality is most of us don't bother to test anyway. We just declare it as a flu, and we take medication based on the flu. But from what the doctors are saying, this flu is so bad that if you have it, you may want to consider getting some antibiotics to help you fight it, because the bush medicine is really not helping you to the extent that it would have helped you. And so we just have to. And normally around that time of the year, Christmas time, after Christmas, you normally get a flu because it's cold. It's very cold and rainy and so forth. But we have to go back to taking our vitamins, you know, washing our hands and still wearing our mask where we can wear our mask. The company which we are buying the petroleum products from is West Indies Petroleum. So West Indies Petroleum, we have purchased the 10,000 barrels from, and we look forward to having a recurrent purchase from them to supplement what we're getting from Venezuela. Okay, thank you very much, folks. I appreciate your comment. Matt, I recognize that you're part of the National Reset, that you're here in full glory as a journalist, asking the sensible questions, and I appreciate your presence there. And we look forward to that mutually respectful engagement as we share with the public what we're doing, and you quiz us based on what the public is saying to you and the concerns which they have. And we will respond to you with the information that we have. If we don't have it, we'll provide it to you in a subsequent time. But thank you very much.
Before you leave, just a note that also this week we are launching a new official news portal of the Office of the Prime Minister. It's pressroomopm.gov.dm. There you will find up-to-date news and information from the OPM and other government departments, public addresses, and the like. So that's pressroomopm.gov.dm, all part of the reset. So thank you, everyone, for coming, and do have a good rest of the week. Thank you so much.